All right, everybody, welcome back to another series in our hashtag BKOT. It's been a while, but we're very excited to have with us Reza Hooda, who is a practice owner, coach, and mentor, and also coming to us from the UK. Reza, nice to meet with you, and thanks for your time today.
Hey, Chris, great to be here and yeah, share some time with you today.
For sure, for sure. So first off, we're all curious to know, we always like to start with their journey. So how did you get into the profession first off? I mean, was this something that was tried and true in the family, or were you inspired by somebody, or it's always on your mind? How did it all get started?
Great question. Sure. So I actually fell into accounting, believe it or not. I studied international business and French at university. So when it came to applying for jobs in my final year, I applied for kind of two different roles. I applied for jobs which would involve or allow me to continue using my French because I had lived in France for a year. I was fluent in French. So, I'd gone many years studying the language. And so that I applied for, the companies like Renault and Peugeot that are, headquartered in France, joining their management program that would have allowed me to live in France and other French-speaking countries to keep that going. But at the same time, I applied for accountancy firms just because it kind of, I guess I was interested in the fact that I would get a qualification, and that qualification would give me some kind of benchmark, as it were, or kind of a baseline that, okay, once I've got the qualification, then again, I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet, but if I get a qualification, I'm in study mode still, so I can study for another 2 to 3 years and then see where that takes me. So I had a couple of job offers come through. I had one from PwC and I had one from Renault, the car company, and I chose PwC. So that was the end of my French, au revoir. And my career in accountancy began at PwC, where I trained as a chartered accountant and then became a chartered tax advisor. I was there for about 5.5 years. I became a manager in their tax department. And then I'd always had the itch to set up my own business, but never quite got that harebrained idea to go away and pursue. But then it came to a chance conversation with my father-in-law, who was running an accountancy practice. He had been running it for about 30 years at the time. He was considering retirement. He was talking to other firms about selling up his practice. And him and I got talking and toyed with the idea about potentially me buying into the practice together with one of my friends at PwC, who was also like me, a bit entrepreneurial, looking at other options. And our conversations then led to us doing exactly that, albeit my friend kind of pulled out at the last minute. So I had to go and find the funds to buy in to the practice on my own and make the move. So I was living in Birmingham at the time, which is kind of middle of England, and the practice was down on the south coast of England. So it meant a big move away from kind of where we were to buy this practice on the south coast of Hampshire, not knowing anything about how to run an accountancy practice. Although PwC train you to be a good accountant, they don't train you to be a good business owner. So kind of, I went into the practice not knowing anything, but I had the zeal and I had the hunger to try and make it a success.
And I feel that most accountants, yeah, they're not business owners, and it is very difficult. There's no blueprint, there's no map, and if you haven't, had that already been built out by within your family, very difficult, right? And so you still have the practice, and so how long did you did it take to where you felt comfortable enough with what you're doing with it? Why, the what and why of what your firm? Was it the first year? Was it the third year? Is it still something that's a work in progress?
Yeah, so when I first started, I struggled and I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I had no idea how to price, I had no idea how to sell, I had no idea to market. So I just did what I thought was the right thing to do, which is what I learned from PwC. But now I figure later on, I did timesheets and things like that, which, kind of moved on from. But you just inherit what's done before you. And some things were great in terms of PwC had good systems. They have to, because they're a global organization, so they've got to have good systems for people to follow, and that was good, and that helped me to implement good systems in the practice. But when it came to going out to kind of win work for a small practice, when it came to pricing, then I just followed the old ways of billing by the hour and doing timesheets and all these things. And I got to the point where, I was stuck in the business. I was working long hours. We weren't making enough money. I was stuck trading time for money. I didn't really know how to lead or manage a team. So we had high staff turnover. In terms of when it came to winning business, I was just trying tactics without any clear strategy. So one client would come in and then two would leave because we had we had high staff turnover. And it got to a point where it wasn't very pleasant running my practice. And there was an epiphany moment that I got back in sort of 2013 when I'm set up my office one evening trying to get through the barrage of all the emails I'm receiving, trying to fend off clients who were constantly harassing my inbox. And I came across an invite to a webinar on practice growth. And at the time, I was willing to try anything because things couldn't possibly get any worse. So I registered and I attended. And I was blown away. I was glued for 90 minutes. And what I learned that day planted the seed that led to the ultimate transformation of my results, my mindset, and ultimately my life. And what I learned that day was that there's an alternative to exchanging time for money. And I learned there was a new way to price. And that's what the concept of value pricing came in. And then I started to learn more. I joined a mentoring program. I realized there was this whole world out there of minds that I could go learn from, people who already been there before me. I started to learn from mentors, from coaches, from going to reading all the books, from learning from the best minds on the planet when it came to marketing, selling, building teams, culture, and immerse myself in this journey, but not just learning, but also applying. So everything I learned, I started to apply and I saw the results. And then within 24 months, we'd gone from chasing clients for invoices of £500 to £1,000 to winning a one-off project of £135,000 and taking our firm to £1 million in revenue with just 7 people. So I owe it to that epiphany moment I got during that one webinar that I attended that got me into this world of self-development. And now my practice runs without me. I spend less than 5 hours a week in the practice. We have a team of around 10, so a very small team. Highly profitable. And I spend most of my time helping other accountants to shortcut their learning so they don't waste time and money to do it, getting to where they want to get to like I did. They can kind of shortcut their journey and get to where their goals a lot quicker than I did.
And when did that transition happen to where you now had an idea, I know how to do this, I did this, and it's working well, I need to share this knowledge. When did that transition happen to working with accounting firms like you are today?
Yeah, great question. So remember I mentioned that I joined, had that one webinar. So off the back of that webinar, I joined a mentoring program of a guy called Mark Wickersham. You may have heard of him. Mark Wickersham talks a lot about value pricing. So I joined his mentoring program, and because I was implementing a lot of the stuff that he was teaching and I was getting good results, I shared the results with him, and he said, you need to come and share what you're doing with my audience. So then he paid me to deliver training sessions to his audience. And that's how my whole journey of training, coaching, mentoring started, if you will, as someone who offered training as part of his program. And then it got to a point where I was building up my kind of community as well in parallel, and then got to a point where we kind of were competing. So we amicably parted ways, and I've gone on to create the Profitable Accountants community, and Mark is still doing his thing. We're still, in touch and good friends. But yeah, that's where it all began.
And so now you said a key word that I hear quite a bit too in regards to staffing challenges is turnover, right? And nowadays, wow, I mean, the word loyalty is just non-existent, and folks the professionals learned about ghosting and offer shopping, and it's never before been seen like this. Do you think that once you transitioned and to this new practice management idea, did turnover remain the same? Did it get less? Was it higher? Like, how did your team buy into this?
Yeah, so in my journey, when I started to kind of coach and train other accountants, I kind of looked back and thought, what process did I follow? How can I kind of turn this into a teachable model and a framework that would make sense to other accountants and put them on a journey to getting that time and financial freedom, which, let's face it, that's the reason why most people go into business, to give them that time and financial freedom that they desire. And I realized that actually everything that I had done, all the small changes that I had implemented in my practice fell within one of four main areas. And I call them the four pillars. And they are pricing, people, process, and positioning. And if you can build those foundations, solid foundations in your practice, then you can build and scale any size practice to any height that you desire. So, pricing and positioning are your external pillars, where that's how you've got to be kind of clear as to who you want to attract. And then pricing is about capturing a share of the value you create. And then internally are your people and your process. So under the people pillar, I'm all about, building strong culture. How do we do that? It's about really figuring out what motivates our people, what really drives employee motivation. And contrary to popular belief, it's not money. What drives employee motivation is actually other things. And Daniel Pink, in his book Drive, he summarizes it into three main areas: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Giving people that autonomy, that independence to self-direct, when they work, how they work, where they work. Mastery, so making sure that you are appreciating the individual skills, talents, geniuses of your people and letting them work in their zone of genius. When they're working in their zone of genius, they're more likely to be engaged and motivated in the work that they're doing. And purpose, so letting people know that actually there's a much bigger impact to the work that you are doing on a day-to-day basis. You're not just doing bookkeeping or accounts. You are changing people's lives. You are helping people with peace of mind. You are helping business owners to get to their goals and dreams so they can do what they want to in life. What the work you are doing has a much bigger impact in the world than just crunching numbers into a computer. So really understanding that and then building one of the concepts I came across back in 2018, which was not quite widespread pre-pandemic, was the results-only work environment, which is espoused by Jody Thompson and Callie Resler. They talk about it in their book, Work Sucks. And this is the notion that you can work when, where, and how you want, as long as the work gets done. So there's no working hours, there's no timesheets, there's no, presenteeism involved. It's simply about giving people autonomy, but with accountability around the work. So focusing on the work rather than the hours. And that's how you then are able to attract the best talent, retain your high performers, and ultimately maximize everyone's potential.
Yeah, well said, because it's true in a few ways that when remote work's been around for the internet started 30, 40 years ago. And however, prior to the pandemic, I had taken a remote job where I am now, still 6 years later. And it was funny when I used to talk about, they're like, oh, I was living in New York City. Where's your office? I work from home. I work at home. I work from home. And there was always a pause, like, do you even work? Right. And so it's just, no one really understood that.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset. I wanted to work remotely. I'd never done it before, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to have the autonomy that I want, and I'm going to master this, and I know my purpose, right? And so I can completely relate to that. And even when you have regarding the staff that you have, it's not. I feel that sometimes leadership roles very difficult, right? Not everyone is made and built to be a leader. You have to identify it. And I feel that it was used to be assumed, right? That the best accountant, the best auditor, the best tax preparer, they should automatically be promoted. But in most cases, that's not what they want to do. They enjoy what they do. They are exceptional at it. They are constantly learning and growing within their domain. They don't want to be a leader. And I feel that figuring out leaders within your own team is so important. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and you're spot on to say that. Not everybody wants to follow a set trajectory to the top echelons of management. Some people are very good technicians. They love just sitting there and solving problems, accounting and tax problems, and that's where they get their joy from, and that's their zone of genius. So trying to push them out into something which they're uncomfortable with, to manage a team and manage your people, that's not in their natural skill set. And when people aren't working within their their natural talents and skill set, then they are going to get aggrieved and demotivated, perhaps if we're forcing them to do something which isn't in line with what their natural talents and genius is. So, yeah, no, absolutely. It's about, there's that famous saying that, you need to get the right people on the bus, but then you need to get the right people on the right seats in that bus. It's all about, knowing the seats on that bus and then placing the people in those right seats according to where their talents lie and where their skills and genius lie.
Yeah, no, spot on. Now, when you're working with accounting firms today, and what are you seeing that is an initial challenge to get this off the ground, or is it to where you're kind of meeting the client before to really see if this is going to fit with them, or are you noticing specific challenges when getting started with a new firm that you're working with?
Yeah, so I have I speak. I have a lot of. I have about sort of 10,000 that I'm connected to on LinkedIn. I've got a Facebook group which has over 1,200 accountants. So, and every time somebody asks to join the group, I ask them about the challenges. So we're pretty clued up as to what accountants' challenges are, and the top two, which appear consistently across the board, and no matter what country that they're in, no matter what continent the accounting firm are in. Well, number one is how do we win new business? And number two is how do we find good people? Those two always end up being the top two challenges that most accountants face: winning business and hiring good people. So with that, there are ways and means that that I help and coach them with in terms of how to go about being differentiating themselves in terms of their offering, really becoming laser focused on who they serve, trying to identify really who they serve so that you stand out in a very busy marketplace. Because if you're just another accountant and you're trying to appeal to everyone, you actually appeal to no one. So in this day and age, when most people are going online to check you out and check other people out, if you just look like the accountant down the road, what would make me choose you over them? So we've really got to get dialed in on who we serve, the message that we have in line with the problems that we solve. And that's how you differentiate yourself and get out of that sea of sameness or the mushy middle that everybody else is in. In terms of the people problem, again, that comes through getting to know what really drives employee motivation by creating that culture that does attract the best talent and retain your high performers by doing away with all these rules that you have in the bigger firms, like the 9 to 5 and the presenteeism and the timesheets, and actually giving people that trust and the autonomy in the account with the accountability to deliver results. So focusing on the results and getting really clear as what do you expect out of said individual, and then hold them accountable to that. Not about how many hours you can clock on a timesheet, or whether you sat in an office for 8 hours a day, or being here or wherever. It's more focus on the results. And when you focus on the results, then those people who, because anyone can make up a timesheet, but people can't make up work. People can't make up results. So focus on the work, focus on the results, rather than time spent, because that doesn't help anybody.
It seems like the people and the positioning almost is a foundation to focus on your other pillars, the process and or pricing and process, right? So you got to have a solid foundation to build on, and then the clients will come. I mean, the work's out there, it's busy, but yeah, you have to stand out. Why should I join? Why did I not join? Why should I be a part of your firm compared to another firm, right? And I think that having a streamlined process, especially bringing on a brand new client, should just be seamless, right? It shouldn't be arduous. It shouldn't seem like they're writing essay after essay. It just should seem like a very quick process for them to get started. And identifying kind of within your own team, right? Who's going to be working with what clients and what aspect, and they understand their role as well. They understand their role as well, which is very important, because many firms these days are transitioning to that advisory, but they just don't know where to start, right? So, what's your advice or tips for our firms that have a foundation in place, but they don't know how to get that whole advisory component kickstarted, what would you suggest?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that a lot of people are hung up about delivering advisory, but I think
Yeah.
there's still a lot of profit to be had in doing the basics right. There's
Yeah.
many firms out there that aren't even doing the basics right and get compliance wrong and upset clients by sending them surprise bills or by not responding to their emails and phone calls for 5, 6 days. They're impossible to get hold of. They don't turn things around in time. So there's still a lot to be said for someone that just delivers good service on the basic compliance stuff. So, focus on that. You don't really need to do business advisory. There is a road to advisory. There is the compliance, which is at kind of bottom end, which is low value and will be commoditized at some point, which is just doing the year-end work, which is reporting on history, which is of little value to clients because it's just doing something which is required by the government authorities that they have to do. And if the businesses and clients didn't have to do it, then they wouldn't do it. But then you move up the chain and you get to what I call financial advisory. Now, financial advisory is the stuff where you are actually adding real value to clients. You are managing their in-house finance function. You're managing their finance function so they don't have to go out and recruit an in-house team to do so. But you can do it much more cost effectively and be paid handsomely as a result. So that financial advisory, doing their bookkeeping, doing their returns, doing the controlling, doing the management returns, the cash flow, that is a real growth area and hugely profitable as well. And it's not something that you need to do yourself because you can hire a team that have experience to do financial advisory. The problem with business advisory is that most accountants, they don't have a coaching mentality. It's kind of outside their comfort zone to ask questions. They have the answers to questions rather than be able to ask questions. Whereas good business advisory means developing those coaching skills to be able to coach people into finding the answer for themselves. So I believe we don't need to get into business advisory. I mean, absolutely, yeah. If maybe there'll be 10% of your clients that might take you up on that, and if you're so inclined, then fair enough. But there's still a huge opportunity around financial advisory that is untapped. And if you can kind of get into that, then that's exactly what we do at the practice. I have a team that handle all our clients. I don't have to get involved in client relationships. I don't get emails from clients. I don't have to talk to clients because I have a team of accountants and bookkeepers that can do financial advisory without me having to get involved. So I'd say it allows me to actually run a business as opposed to being tied to a job of being a technician.
Well said. Yeah, no, spot on. And as we're heading, as we're going to wrap up in a minute or so, what does Reza like to do for fun outside of work? Right, as we always have to take a step back and enjoy life. So, what are you doing in your spare time?
Well, I'm a dad of four, so they keep me
Oh,
busy. I'm dad's taxi, and at the moment we have 4 kids in 4 different schools, so I'm spending a lot of time dropping them here, there, and everywhere, and doing activities and after school clubs and things like that. But no, it's fun. We live by the sea, so we like to get out, do some beach walks. I like to go to the gym. So my routine is in the morning, drop the kids, go to the gym for a couple of hours before hitting a coffee shop to do some of my kind of deep work before I hit the office. So I have a good routine going, and yeah. Apart from that, I don't really have any other hobbies. It's just been very busy with the kids the last 15 years. So my hobbies have gone down
great.
the wayside. But I love what I do. In terms of my work and the coaching, it doesn't feel like work to me. And learning and implementing what I'm learning around marketing
Yeah, and you
and
wrote a
stuff.
book too, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting. Tell us more. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so basically it's everything that I've learned in the 15 years of my journey of kind of really struggling and getting my practice to run without me. It's called the 4 pillars. So you're familiar with the 4 pillars? We talked about those before, of how to build an accounting firm that gives you time, money, and financial freedom. So I give away some free copies. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you can find a link to get a free copy. If you're a listener to the show, you're welcome to go and grab one. We ship worldwide. So yeah, just pay shipping and handling, and you can get a free copy delivered to you.
Love it, Reza. This is great. Really appreciate your time today. To our audience, thanks for listening in. We'll be back soon with another episode. And for now, take care, everybody. Be safe. Reza, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.